route to materials which have zero resistance, so absolutely no resistance to electrical current, and some other related very interesting properties which no other materials have. So I would put it like that. Essentially, superconductors provide a new dimension to electrical engineering.
Hi, Sergey. Thank you so much for jumping on the pod. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Alex. Nice to be here.
Amazing. So today we're going to talk about high temperature superconductors. I know this is an area where you have deep expertise and you've worked across different areas in your career. It's a very exciting space at the moment in fusion, and it's kind of one of the key inputs that's brought upon this inflection point at the moment. So I want to go through this discussion to understand where it's come from, how it's being industrialized, and where some of the applications that it's being used. So as we kick off, I want to hear a bit about your journey and your career to date, so we can understand some of the areas we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm really excited to be on this podcast. As long as I remember me, so all my life had something to do with superconductors since I was 16 or so. So I started working with superconductors in the university, the very early years, and it was an experimental work, scientific work, writing papers, making science around this. Back then in the 90s, it was very exciting stuff. Continues to be so, but everything was very, very new. But then in around, so in the beginning of the century, in the first decade, it was the time for rapid commercial development of early startups and early entities, which started bringing these superconductors in the form of long wires to the market. And I've participated a lot in this. So now I'm director of strategy of Faraday Factory Japan, the largest factory, at least in the Western world, which produces high temperature superconductors today. I'm happy to be on this podcast because superconductors, I think they are absolutely the exciting topic, which you can learn so many new things all the time. Even if you spend kind of 30 years in superconductors, that's always never gets boring.
That's great. So you mentioned the turn of the century that there was a lot of activity happening with startups and different organizations looking at high temperature superconductors. Bringing it back to, I believe it was in the 80s, to the genesis of when high temperature superconductors were actually invented. Can you talk a little bit about that time? And I know there was a Nobel Prize that was born out of that. So what made that moment special?
Essentially, it started in 1911 when the discovery of superconductivity at all as a phenomena happened. And Commonwealth Fusion Dutch physicist, he was awarded the Nobel Prize as well. In general, there are about 5 Nobel Prizes in physics, which have something to do with superconductivity. One of them is with high temperature superconductivity to Carl Alex Müller and Georg Bennold, the two Swiss physicists from IBM Research Lab in Zurich. And they were kind of in the 80s started something that many believed is impossible. So there were real physicists saying in early 80s that the superconductors with transition temperature above like 30 Kelvin are not possible because superconductivity is the quantum phenomenon. So it has something to do with the complicated quantum physics, which takes place at low temperatures, essentially. So superconductivity loves low temperatures. And but those two gentlemen in Switzerland in IBM lab, they just pursued some ideas around how to make oxides, which have rarely believed to be good conductors, and they are not. But they were looking for some special material chemistry stuff. And they finally were lucky enough, maybe, but when you read um, all those things around this discovery, it wasn't a pure luck. It was also, of course, a targeted search. And they succeeded, and they have invented something or discovered something very unusual. They found the oxide mixture, which was containing lanthanum, barium, and copper, an oxide, oxygen, of course, and it was superconducting at 35 Kelvin. The highest transition temperature of superconductor to date was like 23. And many physicists were saying like above 30, that's prohibited by physics, or something like that. Well, first, nothing has happened. It was 86, and the paper was entitled on a possible EHTS, so very, very cautiously. But then in the end of 86, it was reproduced in Japan, in US, and there was a lot of interest. And then in early 87, so-called what is called today RAPCO, rare earth barium copper oxide, with the transition temperature well above liquid nitrogen boiling point, was found in America, the United States, and so then it was obvious that that's something very, very special, because it's something like to get a quantum phenomenon which needs very low temperatures, but it's kind of locked into some crystal structure up to pretty high temperatures, which are really within an easy reach, because the temperatures of liquid nitrogen pretty easy to attain, and that's not something very difficult to do, even almost at home, I would say, or in the lab. So that's why it was very dramatic event. And essentially, if you look, if you search up for the Time magazine, May 87, then it was the superconductivity on the cover of the Time magazine. So something like everybody was kind of saying, "Wow, what's happening?" So there's some new physics, which was long awaited, essentially, and so finally it happened, and it led to the emergence of these wonderful materials we are working on.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear that it's on the cover of Time magazine. So it's not only, you know, in the scientific community, but it's also kind of in broader society, that it was something that was really interesting as an invention. The thing that I always find interesting about high temperature superconductors is when I first kind of came across the term and the technology and the material, is that, you know, high temperature is just relative. You know, we're still operating in a regime of, you know, like minus 200 degrees Celsius. So it is still, you know, quite cool. Um, w- Thinking about high temperature superconductors and their emergence in the late 80s, why was it such a big deal? What did it mean?
It was pretty unexpected, because everybody in the field of superconductivity was not really expecting some huge discoveries, although there's always been some arguing about that. Sometimes we'll have superconducting materials which work at room temperature. The issue in this is that the mechanism, the physical mechanism of superconductivity is not completely understood, so not to 100%. And this makes superconductors difficult to predict. And so it means that this discovery was very special, because empirically we have finally found some route to materials which have zero resistance, um, so absolutely no resistance to electrical current, and some other related very interesting properties which no other materials have. So I would put it like that. Essentially, superconductors provide a new dimension to electrical engineering and to electronics as well, as we see, by the way, in the quantum computers. But superconductors provide the new dimension to how people can build different stuff much better, with a significant effect to the performance and um, to the functions which those devices are supposed to perform. And so this was something like you invent a new type of, I don't know, copper, or a new type of silicon, or a new type of anything. So this is what material chemistry is about, essentially, to find new materials which are covering huge areas of what people essentially do, and that's what superconductivity is. So the caveat is, of course, that you need to cool it down, but in reverse, you get so much of the performance enhancement of new functions, of new everything, that you can take it, and you can develop ways, further develop ways how to make stuff cold, because you would want to unlock this new potential which is laying there with these materials. And potentially it hasn't realized yet, but so the market for superconductivity in general, low temperature, high temperature, is and the devices made thereof is maybe slightly below 10 billion a year right now. But it has a potential to be, I don't know, maybe 10 trillion at some point, because the everything that is electric and that's high power, that can benefit from superconductivity, and in particular high temperature superconductivity, because it makes it much more easy to work with.
So when moving this technology from when it was in the lab, they've done, very small experiments to be able to validate that this material exists and it achieves certain performance characteristics. What are some of the challenges of being able to get it to an industrial scale? What needs to happen from the lab to kind of a factory?
Oh yeah, so many things. Um, High temperature superconductors are oxides, so that's brittle ceramics. And so how to make wires out of brittle ceramics? It was the first question which engineers and scientists needed to answer. And so it took essentially about 10 years from the discovery to get to some viable paths, which are all connected. Many of those are connected with making thin coatings of high temperature superconductor, which is very, very well oriented. The technology is pretty much, I would say, similar to semiconductors, when you have deposition of thin functional layers on some substrate. And in case of high temperature superconductors, the substrate is the very strong metallic tape substrate. And so this is the first thing which was solved. But then there came a lot of more, of course. So you need to make it at scale. You need to make it with reproducible quality. Finally, you need to make it with reasonable cost. And so there are myriads of things around the customization of those wires, so that the users of those wires who make either magnets or cables or something else they can use them in their devices. So they need some special coatings, etc. So there were many technologies, way more than 10, I would say, separate technologies which were developed to make the industry as we know it today.
So, of those 10 technologies, without going into a deep dive into all of them, it'd be good to help understand a little bit more about the level of complexity involved in actually doing this. Yeah, I know there's certain lasers, there's certain material science and engineering capabilities that are required to do some of these processes. Can you talk a little bit about broadly what that looks like?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think so. If we take the moment when the high temperature superconductors were discovered and the development started, that's a good moment because we see now the development of so many physical stuff, including lasers. And maybe lasers are one of the leading example of how perfect human-made devices can become, and they find a very broad application today. And one of the best ways to make high temperature superconducting wires is through pulsed laser deposition. So you take a laser essentially and you use it to evaporate the superconductor, which is the ceramic target, and turn it into the gas, and then let this gas form a coating on the substrate, on the tape which you pass through the deposition chamber. And this development would not be possible without the development of high power XMR lasers, which are used now. So those are big machines with the power approximately 1,000,000 times larger than the laser pointer, just to give you a dimension. And they were essentially not available in 80s, or this higher power was even doubted by many that it can be really created. But the development of flat screen, for example, technology, where the same lasers are used to kind of heat treat or anneal the surface of flat screens for electronics, for laptops, for smartphones. So this all enabled rapid development of those lasers, and then they were applied including by us to the production of high temperature superconductors. And the special point about this moment in time when high temperature superconducting technology was created is that there were and there continue to be so many technical progress in adjacent fields of material handling and material development, mostly propelled by the development of semiconductor industry, so that high temperature superconductors became feasible and became feasible in large quantities and at low cost. But this is all, we have only touched the surface. That's all pretty complicated processes with a lot of control, automation, and with a lot of physics behind that, which is enabled by new cool stuff which became available due to the progress of technology in general. And HTS just benefits from it.
That's great. Oh, it's fascinating to hear that there's such a diverse playing field of technologies, and that there's been, many stepping stones of technological advancement that's helped to, build upon where we are today. So the question I wanted to ask is, in terms of scale, what's the global production capacity for high temperature superconductors?
When we take the unit for high temperature superconductors in relation to fusion, it's very often, not always, but very often, that's 4 millimeter wide tape. Which is capable to carry, let's say, 200 ampere at 20 Kelvin and 20 Tesla. If we take this unit, then the worldwide production capacity today is around 10,000 kilometers a year globally. It is mostly concentrated in Asia, in countries like Japan, where I'm now, and China, and Asia is leading this supply chain for fusion in many respects. The production capacity is around 10,000 kilometers, but it grows with the growing demand for the wire, which is mostly propelled in the last several years by rapid fusion development. And I estimate that the demand slash supply, so let's say sales of high temperature superconductor, increase by an order of magnitude by 10x every 5 to 7 years. So it means that if today we have 10,000, like in year 2020, we had a global demand or supply, whatever, around 1,000 kilometers a year, and that's a very good approximation of what essentially took place back then. But if we look ahead, and if we continue this exponential growth, which most of the high technologies usually follow, then we will see us in, let's say, year 2032, when there should be not 10,000 kilometers a year, but rather something close to 100,000 kilometers a year, being a relevant number for what the market at that point should be it fusion or adjacent fields.
Interestingly, mentioning the growth rates that you mentioned are quite incredible. Actually, I think it shows you that they're really just at the ground level of the potential of high temperature superconductors in fusion and beyond. What I'm curious about is when did fusion first start getting interested in high temperature superconductors? When did those two worlds intersect with each other?
Well, we know, of course, of some fusion companies which have been around for a pretty long time, like Trialpha Energy is existing since a couple of decades, so the Tokamak Energy maybe was one of the pioneers, if not the pioneer, which pioneered the high temperature superconductor use for fusion. And so we know this company since like 2014 or so, since a dozen of years. And around 2018, Commonwealth Fusion Systems was founded in MIT, and put just a new dimension maybe to this commercial fusion. And that's since that time, since around 2018, 2019, it was the time when the demand from a fusion industry to high temperature superconductor wire became very, very visible and real. And and so since then, what we see is the diversification of the fusion industry in terms of demand for HDS wire, both technologically, because there are many concepts which are being pursued, not only tokamaks, but stellarators, open traps, levitated dipoles. If we speak about magnetic confinement fusion, and but also geographically. So that's now pretty well scattered across 4 continents, if you will, the fusion. And so that's interesting how it develops. In summary, I would say that the fusion appeared as the global market for high temperature superconductors. Maybe it started getting there 10 years ago, but formed as the indispensable part of it maybe 5 years ago. So that's about the dynamics.
That makes sense. And obviously, with the high temperature superconductors, there are benefits of being able to achieve a greater magnetic field, which then has benefits for compact design and then economics. I'm really curious about the markets outside of fusion. So fusion, you said is a very large market, and we know that that's a growing space. There's a lot of innovation happening from the fusion developers as they are rapidly commercializing towards demonstrations and ultimately power plants. But where is the opportunity for high temperature superconductors in adjacent markets outside of fusion?
Well, the opportunity is enormous, is really phenomenally large. As I said, this can easily go into trillions if the technology development takes this path. And I really don't believe that there are too many ways around unless something new will be discovered. Because if you increase electric power, then you inevitably come to better conductors. And high temperature superconductor is just the better conductor or the best conductor as of now. And so everything that has to do with the transporting large currents or high power is the field where high temperature superconductors can be used with a lot of sense. And the same with the generating high magnetic fields. So that's essentially the same because in those magnets you need to put a lot of electrical current flowing in a coil. And again, high temperature superconductors are very instrumental in doing this. And so take every industry which is, let's say, conductor intensive or copper intensive, because copper is a dominating conductor. So whether those are power cables or current bus bars or cables along the tracks of railways or cables in large industries, so in some production, feeding electricity to some large industrial equipment, through transformers, which are very hungry for copper, and you can substitute it with high temperature superconductor, reducing losses, increasing fire safety, etc. And to various types of industrial magnets. So sometimes there is for example, a niche application for high temperature superconductors where you can concentrate the ore based on its magnetic properties. Like you crush the ore particles or stones and send it through a very high magnetic field, and then it is being separated depending on its magnetic properties. It's a very efficient way to improve the efficiency of mining and production of minerals. And so there are so many more applications essentially, but I need to mention at least three more. So one is the healthcare tools. You can make MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. Essentially, the best way to do it is to use superconducting magnets, and high temperature superconductors allow to go helium free with this. And there are particle accelerators used for tumor therapy, and they also use superconductors inside some of the advanced versions of it. So healthcare tools, very different, very diverse set of technologies around there. There's definitely space, because space getting more and more electric, maybe with a slow pace, but this is the inevitably will be the path forward for space technologies. And many players have demonstrated that there are so many interesting applications for superconductivity in space. And now we have, right now, there are two magnets in space already made from HTS. But there will be much more, especially if we speak about the, I don't know, data centers in space, or gigawatts, even megawatts in space, even kilowatts in space are very challenging without some good conductors which do not hit themselves by passing the current, as copper does. And which are much lighter than copper. Those like high temperature superconductors, they provide so many efficiency and so many weight efficiency, so many energy efficiency, which is so precious. Every gram or every joule is precious in space. And so every development in this direction will inevitably lead to the need of high temperature superconductors, either for cables or the coils, magnetic coils. And the last but not least, there is a certain activity now led by very large companies, aviation companies, to create the electrical plane or large electric motors, large power electric motors, which are very compact and lightweight, which can be installed into the airplane and make the aviation carbon free at some point. So there are some benchmarks like 2050 or 2040 around, like what should be done to make aviation electric. And high temperature superconductors are the one of the few tools which help on this way. So that is a very broad and very interesting and very diversified field of applications, and I constantly learn something new around that. So the people are kind of coming and saying, what if we need 4 to 5 Tesla magnet for something? And it turns out that the superconductors are the best way to do this.
I think it's incredible that there's like such a long, like you mentioned, diversified list of applications and opportunities to explore. The thing that's also fascinating to me is that it's not only just about reducing energy losses. There are also these second order benefits that you get from engaging with high temperature superconductors, like you mentioned, that you can have a smaller engine on a electric aircraft, which then kind of reduces weight, which then has a whole series of other benefits. And he also mentioned in the medical context, opening up new regimes for things like helium-3. It's fascinating just by manipulating improving the functional performance of, resistivity, you can unlock all these other things.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, and that's what I believe the general public still is kind of missing and not seeing that. But that's very often happens to new technologies. It gets broader and broader acceptance, and then wow, we come to kind of a Kitty Hawk moment in every new technology. So I strongly believe with high temperature superconductors we'll have this moment soon when it will become very, very obvious to pretty much everyone that it's an incredible thing. By the way, we saw this with there were some big discussion and media avalanche when there were claims which were not proven after that of the discovery of room temperature superconductors. So a couple of years ago, LK99, for example, is the famous name for this. But it has shown, in my opinion, that public and people in general are very fascinated about superconductors. And so our job is to make essentially what we have today, which is already absolutely incredible. And even if you take it kind of couple of decades back, it's hard to believe what we have now in hand and what engineers already have in hand with high temperature superconductors as they are today. So this is a hard to believe technology. This is absolutely 21st century technology is there. And when this public acceptance will become more general, so that should be not less hype than with those not very credible discoveries of something new, some new superconductors which have been around there. But I think that the most important on the long run, and even maybe even in the short term, will be that high temperature superconductors are not only helping to save energy, joules, or weight, like grams, but it helps to save a lot of critical minerals, essentially to reduce the dependency of various technologies on the critical minerals. From HTS, you can make a huge magnet, which will be generating, let's say, 2 Tesla, and put it into the wind generator or in some other device, which is now using permanent magnets and takes tons of those rare earth elements to create this magnetic field. So you can use way less, at least factor 10, if not 100, less critical minerals and make the same job with high temperature superconductor. You can do it today. And the same with the power cables. So all those power cables which are around and which are bringing electricity to some hubs, to substations, and further to homes, they can be rewired or reconductored with high temperature superconductors, reducing copper intensity of this by a factor of 10 at least. And this is essential because what we see now with prices for all those commodities or critical minerals or whatever, and the outlooks for the mining of those metals. We see that there are some potential problems and bottlenecks and shortages on the horizon around 2030. And so that's the time, exactly time when high temperature superconductors may become very, very helpful in leveraging some of this demand for critical minerals, which is becoming short, not because of let's say some market situation, but those are fundamental things, because there is not so many easily discoverable or mineable metals on Earth anymore. And this situation will increasingly go into the wide acceptance of high temperature superconductors and technologies enabled by these materials, because we can make more with less atoms with high temperature superconductors.
Again, another second order benefit that people don't realize about decoupling from critical mineral constraints that may emerge, which is another fascinating area to think about. The other thing I wanted to note, and you were talking earlier about the public acceptance and understanding of high temperature superconductors. I was reflecting, I remember when I was in high school, you learn about low temperature superconductors, you learn about, maglev trains, and you learn about these other kind of applications. And it sounds like there's a whole other, menu of opportunities that are going to open up in the coming years. And then high temperature superconductors will be, a household name when it comes to technologies. So the question I wanted to finish on is what does the next 10 years look like? There's industrialization happening, there's new opportunities. What paint the picture of the next 10 years?
Well, expecting great developments of the fusion endeavors, and that we will see great demonstrations of fusion devices producing extra energy through fusion, like getting Q greater than 1, with the help of high temperature superconducting magnets. I need to notice at this point. So this will be in the achievement of this would be really very difficult to underestimate, because the fusion decouples the energy production from resources which we mine from Earth, and don't have the intermittent and don't have this the drawbacks of let's say solar, which doesn't work at night, and of wind, which is also not always there. So fusion will definitely contribute to the energy mix, like a new reliable source, which is enabled by technology. That's very important, because this means that's scalable, that will get lower cost as the time passes. And this will be incredibly important for high temperature superconductors. But there are other markets which are no less in size than the fusion industry in the next 10 years. And I think the power cables will see a significant development. The transformers may emerge like an off-take market for high temperature superconductors, mostly because of the shortages and the high cost of copper conductor, and the lack of other advanced conductors to substitute for missing copper. I expect that there will be more development and exciting development in the space and in healthcare, so that we will see high temperature superconducting devices here and there. doing mostly a magnet job for space and healthcare. And last but not least, there are always like very some developments which kind of nobody expects. So it's not on the radar of the most of the experts, and they simply emerge, and they prove very useful, and they start being applied. Just one example. So this January, 4 months ago, there was a commercial sale of high temperature superconducting pumps for liquid hydrogen in Japan, from one company to another company, and this is not research anymore. This is the market. So because you put the high temperature superconductors in liquid hydrogen, and they are already superconducting, you don't need to cool them. And if the liquid hydrogen economics starts getting some food here and there, whether it's the niche or global scale. Anyway, it will be important for getting high temperature superconductors applied and getting high temperature superconductors involved in the global economy. So I would speaking about next 10 years, I would really expect that there will be at least three expected, unexpected applications for high temperature superconductors, which nobody is talking about today, but they might be a very, very significant portion of it. I don't know, some high power energy storage for data centers, for intermittency, which AI is not only prone of. So to help solve this problem or something else. But again, I'm pretty sure that high temperature superconductors are providing so many new properties, usable properties to engineers, like really giving a new dimension which you can go into. That there will be a very significant discoveries and new names in next 10 years with connected with how high temperature superconductors are used to make our life better.
That's great. I think it's very exciting to hear how opportunity rich the space is for this. And there's just, like you said, all the applications, and some of them that we haven't even unlocked yet, we don't even know about yet. So I think that makes it even more exciting. So Sergey, I just want to thank you very much for taking the time today. It's been a very insightful discussion about innovation and superconductors, and look forward to hearing more about these new applications in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and that was great opportunity to speak about high temperature superconductors, which I believe are the most exciting materials right now, today, in the world.
Well, have a great day and look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.